The story begins with Hansel, age 17, attempting to break the world record for a deadlift. As he lifts the weight, surprising everyone, his heart suddenly fails, causing him to lose consciousness. He slowly closes his eyes, wondering if he has blacked out again. However, Hansel gains several different skills as he hears a voice whispering in his ear that he has achieved the legendary status of a bodybuilder. Hansel slowly wakes up, shocked by what's going on. He wonders why the chickens are attacking him. Fed up, he decides to fight back, realizing that he can get protein from the chickens with the help of a system that tells him how much protein each chicken has. He pounces on them and devours them. Hansel looks down at himself and realizes that he has lost all his gym gains. He gazes at his reflection in the water and is shocked by how scrawny he appears. Just like us, man. We're readers, annoy. Hansel grabs a tree and pulls it out from the ground. He then starts benching it, hoping to gain more muscle. However, 3 months later, he realizes that he has not made any more progress, and the only source of protein he has is from the chickens around him. Suddenly, a shadow appears behind him, and as he turns around, he notices a giant rooster. Panic-stricken, Hansel starts running, worried that even one hit from the giant rooster might prove fatal. However, he can't help but admire the rooster's impressive chest muscles. Suddenly, a group of chickens blocks Hansel's path, smirking at him. Hansel manages to run through the group of chickens. His system informs him that the giant rooster contains 12,000 kilograms of protein, and consuming it will grant him a rare skill called Amazing Muscle Recovery. After learning about the skill, Hansel prepares to attack the rooster by jumping up on the tree and charging at it. Suddenly, Hansel receives a notification that detects the energy stored within his muscles, allowing him to alter his skeleton. His arm increases dramatically in size. He lunges at the rooster and punches it in the mouth, causing its head to pop. However, Hansel receives a warning that his muscle durability has worn out, causing him to fall to the ground. Nevertheless, he gains the amazing muscle recovery skill for defeating the rooster boss. Later that night, as Hansel eats the rooster, a few creatures are watching him from a distance. Before we continue, take a moment to answer the question of the day. Do you go to the gym and read Manhwa? Comment down below for a chance to be shouted out. Now back to the recap. As they approach, they introduce themselves as ghouls and ask if he was the one who had defeated the boss. Hansel confirms it. They ask for a request, but unfortunately, he phases out and does not hear their request for a favor. Instead, he instructs them to do 10 sets of laps. The frustrated ghouls walk away, but Hansel offers them some meat. As one of the ghouls attempts to lift it, Hansel becomes worried that the ghoul might snap its back. Hansel volunteers to carry the meat back to the ghoul village, and as they arrive, the ghoul lord greets him. Hansel is taken aback by the lord's appearance, which consists of thin limbs and a lot of belly fat. The ghoul lord then demands that the ghouls who brought Hansel's meal appear before him. He grabs his bat and reveals that he had actually been the one who desired to defeat the giant rooster and control it. Annoyed his followers, he uses his skills to power up his bat and strikes at them. Hansel quickly blocks the attack and wonders why the ghoul lord is attacking weaker ghouls. The ghoul lord questions whether his skill has been activated or not, and then decides to activate it again. This skill allows him to multiply the weight of any object by 2 to 10 times its original weight. Hansel is impressed by this incredible ability. Suddenly, the ghoul lord attempts to strike Hansel with his bat, but in a surprising move, Hansel breaks the bat and lunges toward the ghoul lord with a tight grip on the ghoul lord's neck. Hansel demands to know what his big three are. The ghoul lord is confused by what Hansel means by the big three. Hansel clarifies that he is referring to the 3 fundamental exercises, but soon realizes that the ghoul lord has no idea what he is talking about. Hansel instructs the ghoul lord to lift the weight. However, the ghoul lord reminds him of the earlier agreement. If the ghoul lord beats Hansel in the big three, Hansel must become his subordinate. The ghoul lord then uses his special skill to lighten the weights and lift them effortlessly. As Hansel prepares to lift the weight, the ghoul lord tries to make it heavier using his skill. Nonetheless, Hansel manages to lift it and throws it into the air, surprising everyone by stating that he forgot to control his strength. All the ghouls bowed, acknowledging Hansel's incredible strength as their new leader. The ghoul lord revealed that Hansel could return to Earth. He explained how this world thrived on the concept of the strong consuming the weak. Taking Hansel to their training ground, he showed the shocking state of their training area. Dismayed, Hansel gathered the ghouls and announced a 3-month training regimen. "We'll become warriors," he declared. Their first task, 100 push-ups. After 3 exhausting hours, Hansel pushed them further. "It's your mentality that makes you weak," he encouraged, stirring newfound determination. Energized, the ghouls resumed their workout. Hansel's training skills improved, guiding them tirelessly. 3 months later, lizardmen approached their village. Hansel ordered positions, readying for battle. The ghouls transformed from weak creatures to powerful warriors. catching the lizard men off guard. Seeing the ghoul lord, the lizard men hoped to defeat him and end the fight. Addressing Hansel, the ghoul lord sought guidance. Hansel remembered his youth, taming an iguana by showing strength. He used this lesson, overpowering a lizard man and intimidating the rest. In another place called Wurdodachi, a lord commanded a trio to find the missing rooster boss defeated by Hansel. The group, led by Liper and Hennard, faced a goblin ambush. Despite obstacles, they protected their companion Blog. Back at the ghoul village, Hansel trained the lizard men. After training, the ghouls bid farewell, astonishing Hansel with their growth. They had evolved into skilled guddy builders. Some ghouls requested solo hunting, but Hansel saw through their plan. Their muscles grew from training. As Hansel and the guddy builders ventured into the forest, an injury occurred. Meanwhile, the trio faced goblins. Blog, wanting to contribute, tried to fight. Hennard joined, but lizard men ambushed them. Chickens chased by Hansel and the goody builders caused chaos. They had underestimated the chickens' power. Hansel taught the goody builders about the importance of training chest and used resistance bands tied to trees to teach them. Hansel advised against provoking the chickens further. He reminded the guddy builders of their walking lunges, emphasizing consistent training. One of the guddy builders realizes that the source of their strength is from their legs, and Hansel agrees as he gets into position. He pounces at the chicken, but the chicken tosses the guddy builder into the air. Hansel forgot to mention that their legs would be tired. The chickens start taunting them and stare at Hansel before rushing towards him. Hansel gets into position when the chicken suddenly has a flashback of its life from hatching from an egg to meeting its death at the hands of Hansel following their defeat. Hansel and the goody builders cooked the chickens they had obtained. Hansel congratulated them on their growth as they did a toast to the next day. Hansel reminds the goody builders that they are far from surpassing him. He tells them to hunt carefully and that he will join them after he finishes his workout, as that is more important than a battle. As the guddy builder joyfully start hunting, the human trio arrives. The cockatrice skeleton shocks them with its size. Log wonders who could have killed it in a single hit. The other two tell Blonde not to worry as they will protect him. Suddenly the trio hears noises beyond the bushes, and a bunch of goody builders appear, attacking them. The goody builder notices the humans and stops, stating that humans are brutal and like to slaughter others. The goody builder calls for the other goody builder teams to arrive, signaling them with their chest. However, this also triggers the cockatrice's evolution. As they are about to strike the goody builders, they think they are doomed. Suddenly, Team 1 and Team 2 goody builders arrive. They begin using their secret technique learned from Hansel. They get into form and use their chest muscles to push the cockatrice away with such force that they cough blood. A bunch of goody builders are about to attack one of the goody builders as he prepares to say his goodbyes, thanking his clan. The human trio protects him and strikes the cockatrice, but they end up triggering the cockatrice's panic. Everyone is taken aback by the dragon-sized cockatrice that stands before them. Although it is not too different from what they had expected, the very first dragon that existed had been so consumed by its reputation that it feared its successors would not live up to its repute. Therefore, it decided to distribute its power, birthing a new species called the cockatrice, which closely resembled dragons. While the two humans are determined to impress Blog by attacking and defeating the huge monster in front of them, Hansel is completely unaware of their plan as he works out. He is deep in thought about how his muscle volume has been increasing much slower than the goody builders, even though they exercise at the same rate. Despite this, he is still happy that they listen to him, considering they are still beginners. Hansel reflects on the past 3 months, recalling how he struggled to motivate the weak goody builders who were once only crybabies and lacked the drive to live. It was challenging to encourage them to keep working hard, even though they initially failed the exercises. Nevertheless, the goody builders persevered, and eventually he started building muscle mass, making Hansel feel satisfied and proud of their progress. Thinking of his master, Hansel begins to miss him, and it occurs to him that his master disappeared around his current age. However, before he could dwell on it further, a giddy builder frantically approaches him and informs him about the evolving in a cockatrice, which is posing a danger to everyone. The goody builder starts to worry a lot about his fellow builders who are getting hurt. Hansel suddenly steps in and asks which way the chaos is happening. He changes his own body to be stronger and faster and shoots off in that direction. Hennard and Liper are still battling the cockatrices. They're having a hard time, but Hennard gets an idea. He throws dirt in the air to make a distraction and tells Blog to run away. Blog gets mad because Hennard's plan put Liper in danger. The cockatrice throws Liper away, but Liper gives Hennard a thumbs up as he falls, which is funny. Blog talks about how weird everything is, especially Lipa giving a thumbs up. Hennard looks at Blog with a confused face and tells Lipa that Blog cares about them too, like it's a silly thing. Hennard rushes over to Blog, who's still holding on to the Goody Builder like it's attacking. He tells Blog that they have to run away to be safe, but Blog doesn't want to run away. They want to stand and fight. The cockatrices are coming, and Blog's ready to face them. The Goody Builders try to defend themselves, but they're easily knocked down by the cockatrices. They're hurt and tired, and the cockatrices are closing in. It looks really bad. Just when things seem hopeless, a bright light appears and blows the cockatrices away. Everyone's so relieved, thinking Hansel has come to save them. But when the smoke clears, it's not Hansel. It's their former leader, Lord Nim. Everyone's shocked to see him. Meanwhile, Hansel lands on the ground nearby, but he's in the wrong place. Lord Nim looks confident, surrounded by cockatrices. Blog and Hennard are impressed with Lord Nim's attack. A Goody Builder nearby tells them to watch their leader. Lord Nim starts teasing the monsters, asking if they really thought he'd come without a plan. The Goody Builders are thrilled and start cheering for their leader. Lord Nim praises Hansel and shouts for him to come save them all. The monsters are focused on Lord Nim now. Everyone waits with bated breath, but Hansel doesn't show up. Lord Nim falls to his knees, praying and crying for Hansel to come. A while ago, he left his hut in the ghoul village to find food and check on his fellow builders who went hunting. He thought there was no danger, but he was wrong. His fellow ghouls were in trouble, facing something dangerous. As Lord Nim hears the screams of his subordinates, he realizes he needs to help his subordinates. He angrily picks up a big rock and throws it towards the place with full force and then increases the force even more. Midway with his skill, the Lord Ghoul wasn't a bodybuilder like others and didn't even train. He just had this special skill called Heavy Blunt that increased the load of the objects he targeted at, and this skill was enhanced to a maximum, where Hansel used to ask him to keep increasing the loads for their weightlifting. The other Goody Builders encourage him to keep on fighting since he beat them just about now, and maybe he's just been underestimating his power. While he's actually as strong as Hansel, the stupid ghoul actually gets convinced that thinking how it's definitely not easy to beat any such big monster, and he is so right now. So he hits a boost of confidence and faces the monster chickens, only to get thrown far away by the monsters. Everyone is sure of being doomed after this, so all the dramatic ones come up with emotional lines for their friends, like Blog telling Lipa and Hennard of not getting the jokes while they weren't ever cracking jokes, and seriously mock him, while the Goody Builders also emotionally decide to fight till their last muscle cell, and gratitude of Hansel for teaching them all this. On the other hand, luckily the Ghoul Lord was thrown far enough to actually end up right where Hansel was, so Hansel just looks at the ghoul lying in front of him. The Lord then chokes out words to Hansel, begging him to save them all. This angers Hansel. His calm, his skill keeps activating and deactivating at this thought, as the ghouls reach the cockatrice to fight them with all their might. All those monsters cross them and keep running in direction behind them. Everyone is confused at what just happened while the monsters reach Hansel, whose calm this skill is activated, while the veins on his body are almost popping out of everywhere. In order to try and remain patient, he addresses the raged monsters in a scary tone to stop, as he's calmer than ever, while his calmness skill surpasses such a limit that it will be cancelled for a day. The three humans run towards the direction where the cockatrice went, since they all feel a certain vibration in their chests that hint them about it being Hansel's blood. While carrying a tired Lipa, Blog questions who Hansel is, as to which the builder tells him he's their master and leader, with the most sensitive muscle tissue. Blog seems to be wanting more explanation, but he's told by the Goody Builder to tag along and witness it with his own eyes. Another Goody Builder interrupts, asking his fellow to be nice and summarize it for them. So Blog is now told of the great deal of admiration in the ghoul's tone that Hansel is their new ghoul leader. Of course, Blog still can't get anything out of it. A pissed-off Hansel is surrounded by raging cockatrices. When one tries to attack it, it's thrown far away by his one-armed dumbbell press. The two other big chickens who thought they can counter are thrown away in the exact same fashion. Some other monsters then attack Hansel collectively by pressing their feet on him together. Hansel endures it for some time, then pushes through the paws of the dragon chickens, aiming a flying lunge right at the face of one of the cockatrices. He stands on top of one of the dead cockatrices in extreme fury, questioning the idea that if he can make their chest muscles grow using his chest muscles, then can they do that for him too? He goes into his CrossFit mode and increases the muscle size and strength of his upper body while digging his hands inside the ground. He then lifts his hands up furiously, once having enough strength, and successfully throws off multiple cockatrices at the same time. He then rips a tree off the ground and starts jumping squats using it, only the jumps and weight involved being copper traces. His ground, and then he uses his cable triceps extension to throw the tree in his hand with a great amount of force on a cockatrice. The goody builders halt at seeing multiple bodies of the monsters that were a danger to them just a while back, while Blog, Hennard and Liper are stunned at the sight in front of them, finally witnessing the ghoul lord. All these ghouls are so obsessed with getting stronger. On the other hand, Hansel realizes he used too much leg strength to get here. He's low on energy and can't keep this up for long, but he can't stop. He doesn't want to disappoint their old lord who trained him and the other goody builders. Hansel knows he needs to finish this in one go, so he starts working on his upper body muscles, doing bench presses. But the more muscles he builds, the harder it gets for his tired legs. Warnings appear, saying he might hurt his muscles. The chicken-like monsters are coming closer, but Hansel stands his ground. He's ready to face them, even if it hurts. Then, a surprising thing happens. The other goody builders join him, touching each other's backs. It's like a chain reaction, making them all stronger. They support Hansel, calling it an extra set. He feels a positive boost and gathers all his strength for a final attack. He defeats the monsters, but everyone is exhausted, lying on the ground. Hansel and the builders think about their old lord, who they lost in this fight. They talk about how their lord became nicer and less violent, even helping in this battle. Hansel asks for help standing up, but the others ignore him, walking away. Hansel gets frustrated and starts scolding them. Suddenly someone thanks Hansel for his hard work. They all turn and see their old lord, healthy and fine. He had just been taking a nap. Hansel and the builders smile and hug their lord, making him uncomfortable. They're happy he's okay and ask him to keep looking after them. Hennard and Liper tell their master, Lord Count Wardo, about what happened. But Lord Wardo sees Hansel as a danger, worried he might turn evil. They decide they need to handle Hansel properly. Their master, however, is more focused on the missing blonde from the team they sent. Liper and Hennard dramatically get teary-eyed at the mention of their friend, Blog. After the chaotic fight, Hansel seemed to be wandering around Blog in a rather creepy way while admiring his body and posture. The other two get frantic at Blog being in potential danger. Hansel pays them no heed and casually asks if Blog wishes to get stronger than now. Hansel easily holds the sword coming at him from behind and still asks, unbothered, if Blog wants to exercise with him. Of course, this tempted the poor Blog, who readily agreed. Liper and Hennard narrate the story while wiping their tears, wanting their friend to be saved from whatever Hansel meant by taking him. Wardo simply declines help in this case, not wanting to risk anything for one person, but their master is furious at the thought of her student being taken away. She aggressively asks the other two to follow him so they can go save their innocent Blog. Poor Lord Wardo just stands in the empty room, still looking for the moment to stop her. In the Bull Village, Hansel introduces the newcomer and offers starting with squats to help Blog settle. Blog has no idea what squats are or has a hard time understanding it, but Hansel properly guides him on how to do squats. Even though painful, he ends up doing it right. All the goody builders clap and support, encouraging their new training fellow. Hansel also appreciates him for doing well for the first time, then asks him to keep doing it and puts a barbell in his hands. Blog has a hard time but still balances himself and pressing Hansel to no end. Hansel starts praising Blog, telling him he can become much stronger in his own way and even protect his friends with his strength. Blog gets overwhelmed after being appreciated for the first time and starts crying. Hansel chuckles, telling him to relax. After correctly identifying Blog's potential, Hansel's Hawkeye skill upgrades from level 2 to level 3. The ghouls question Hansel on bringing all the little cockatrices with him. He tells them they can't be reckless while hunting or they'll get endangered. Hence, they should prevent any kind of extinction. The former lord agrees, but shows concern about the cubs being little and weak right now. But when they evolve, only Hansel will be able to beat them. This strikes a nerve in Hansel, who questions the former lord if he can't beat them in a very threatening tone. This makes him reconsider, and Hansel tells him to stop underestimating their beings. In the training ground, Hansel guides all the goody builders in their training, while the former lord supervises Blog. He increases the force of the barbell held by Blog as he tries to lift it, but before they can see the outcome of it, an intrusion throws all of them off the ground. The former master of Blog appears and faces the former lord, who was with Blog. She questions if he's the one who stole her student, but the innocent lord is confused. He tries to clear up that he doesn't know who she is, or not even being the chief of the village anymore. The arrogant woman decides to try to kill the vulnerable lord, just because he didn't answer her with a yes or no. But of course Hansel does not let this slide easily. He blocks her attack easily with his arm, and saves his former lord, questioning her motive. Since they are only peacefully exercising in their village, noticing how he blocked her sword, She understands that it's him her students have been talking about, while Lipa and Hennard confirm this from behind, simultaneously exclaiming for Blog to come back to them as they are there to save him. The master simply faces Hansel for stealing her student, while Hansel is surprised and turns to Blog questioning why he didn't tell him that he already had a master. This caused confusion. Blog stutters at forming an answer, making Hansel smile and ask if it's because he is more interested in exercising than swordsmanship. Hansel gets cocky and asks Blog to stop hesitating and say it if it's true. Blog finally manages to apologize to his former master since he does not feel interested in swordplay anymore. The arrogant woman decides to forcefully extract blood, but Hansel steps in, once again parrying her sword with his body. This time he strikes a powerful pose, flexing his muscles to defend against the attack. The woman's pride takes a hit as her strike merely leaves a scratch on Hansel. Frustrated, she proposes a truce, suggesting that they settle their dispute through combat. The winner would gain Blog as their student, proving their martial arts superiority. Hansel attempts to clarify that exercise and building muscle are not the same as martial arts. He explains that he only resorted to killing creatures for sustenance. Dismissing his explanation, she belittles the idea of exercise being useful in combat, labeling it as worthless and calling Hansel's efforts trash. Her taunts strike a nerve, igniting Hansel's anger. Determined to teach her a lesson, he activates his cock's leg mode, preparing to confront her. Meanwhile, the audience of goody builders speculates about the outcome of the impending clash. They munch on snacks as they discuss the odds, with some underestimating the woman due to her size compared to Hansel. However, Blog warns them not to underestimate her, revealing that she ranks among the top 10 strongest individuals on the continent. As Hansel faces off against the woman, he analyzes her strengths using his Hawkeye skill. He's surprised by her ability to inflict damage despite her relatively small muscle mass. She taunts him further, labeling him an alien due to his red aura, which supposedly indicates a person's malevolence. She argues that a person's physical appearance can't be changed through skill alone, undermining Hansel's perspective. Hansel vehemently disagrees, asserting that it's common sense that effort and training shape the body. The woman counters, claiming that humans like her rely on their mana to compensate for weaknesses. She unleashes her Mountain of Swords combat skill, surrounding Hansel with a flurry of sabers. She asserts that no amount of martial arts training can save a human, branding it as futile. Despite exhaustion from her relentless assault, Hansel queries about the strength of her opponents the following day. She dismisses the question, but Hansel persists, sharing that bodybuilders in his gym consistently improve to overcome challenges. This time, when she launches the same saber attack, Hansel defends himself through strategic posing, enhancing his strength and size to confront the assault head-on. To show her his skills, now on the other hand, Blog was munching on his food and watching the show. When Lipa and Hennard approached him, trying to apologize for pressurizing him that led to him leaving them, Blog felt confused about all this. He told them he only left to train under Hansel and get stronger, then returned to them. They were surprised at the news as they thought he'd never return. They excitedly inquired about what Blog was learning, intrigued to know. So, Blog got ready to show them the training he'd gotten so far. He asked the former lord to help, who agreed while Vlog's two masters fought frantically in the background for custody of him. Blog told them it's the same as their initial sword training. They needed to focus on their lower body, especially their quadriceps muscle. Squats make that muscle stronger. He told them they need to learn the posture first, but if they want to have fun, they should add weights to their body. The former ghoul lord expressed concern, but still allowed it. When Blog told him he'd assist them, Hansel attacked the master with his large fist, but retracted the pressure at one time. He explained it was to gain more strength and attack with even more force, using the basic concept of muscle contraction and elongation. Amidst defending against that giant fist, her attention was diverted towards the moaning Lipa and Hennard, who were having the time of their lives training with Blog. She asked Hansel for a time-out to inquire about the workout in the most fascinating way. Though confused, he told her it's squatting. She suddenly apologized to him, saying she wants to include it in her training too. This pause made Hansel return to his normal size and bewilderment. She told him it brings her peak happiness, and her students show their passion through this training. They both shook hands, united through workouts. While travelling along with the swordmaster woman, Hansel admired her well-built forearms and asked how she got them. She laughed at his childish behaviour and told him it's because of her habit of swaying the sword around. She also asked him about how he thought it's okay to teach his special techniques so easily without asking for anything in return. He told her it fills his dream of spreading the concept of exercise and gym around the entire world. In this way, people can come up with new ways to strengthen their bodies. She laughed, thinking the innocent boy was joking, and then shared that she's fond of him. She said if he ever wants a favor, he can ask her. Hansel showed his gratitude. The humans and ghouls camped for the night while having dinner. Winner Love approached Hansel and shared a deep concern about the discrimination in his continent. He said his place discriminates heavily based on status and power, but it gets even worse for humans and non-humans. It could be dangerous and disturbing for Hansel and the goody builders out there. He called it a serious problem. When Blog started to speak again, Hansel mindlessly got up and walked towards where the horses were eating their food. Hansel, known for his voracious appetite, decided to munch down on a handful of food, sending himself into a sleepy food coma. This caught the attention of his human companions, who frowned upon his mannerless behavior and criticized his food choices. They laughed at the idea of monsters having strange preferences, but their laughter was cut short when the former Lord Ghoul appeared with a serious warning. He cautioned them that mocking monster food choices could offend the creatures nearby. To illustrate his point, he presented a unique dish made by combining their food, urging them to give it a try. Although initially repulsed by the concoction, the enticing aroma tempted them to take a taste. With each bite, they were engulfed in a heavenly taste that seemed to transport them to another world. Amid exclamations of delight, the former lord silenced their chatter and offered a deal. If they stopped ridiculing monsters, he would share the recipe. Eagerly agreeing, Hansel approached Ryan and made a surprising request. He asked for the source of the oats used to feed the horses, revealing that it was for his own sustenance, not just livestock. Ryan's surprise was echoed by the goody builders, who believed such a small favour was beneath her. But Hansel was adamant, explaining that oats provided essential energy and a balanced diet. His impassioned speech swayed the goody builders and even the knights and swordsmen, who longed for enhanced strength. However, upon tasting the oats, they were met with disappointment and disgust, save for Blog, who agreed with Hansel's sentiment. Impressed by Hansel's conviction, Blog urged him to fulfill his favour. As the ghouls confidently paraded their bodies, the humans in the castle grew more envious and resentful. Meanwhile, Lordo, the castle lord, engaged Hansel in conversation about the situation. Annoyed by Hansel's arrogance, yet bound by the general's command, Lordo agreed to the livestock meal in exchange for workout knowledge. As Hansel and Blog left, Lordo's exhaustion gave way to a sinister plan. He contemplated the increasing popularity of General Ryan and how bringing a monster among the commoners could serve his purpose. By using these monsters to create chaos and discontent, he aimed to tarnish the general's reputation. Lordo ordered the summoning of the Tutula mercenary force to execute his malevolent scheme. In a bustling trading ground, the Tutula mercenaries were abruptly halted by their teacher's announcement. The course was changing, and they were to learn from the monsters about their workouts without defiance. The humans, however, glared at Hansel and the goody builders with disdain. Hansel introduced himself politely and implored them to be open-minded. He then directed them to lay down on their hands. All eyes were fixed on Blog as he addressed the situation. He calmly instructed everyone to follow his lead, but his words fell on deaf ears. In an instant, Hansel and the ghouls were on their feet, Hansel once again shouting out commands. This time, some of the humans and blood heeded his words. A student openly mocked his peers for listening to a monster, disregarding the general's command. The teacher scolded him, but rebels paid no attention. He refused to work under a monster he deemed inferior to humans. With pride, he rallied his fellow students to stand up. Hansel, his anger flaring, rose to confront the arrogant student. The former lord stepped in, proposing a resolution through dialogue. He offered 3 solutions. First, laws and commands that wouldn't involve direct orders from a monster. Second, a battle between a monster and a human to determine the better training method. Third, the results of the fight could demonstrate if the human training methods were uncivilized. Impressed by the idea and the confidence of the goody builders, Hansel agreed. The former lord found a volunteer from the human side, an arrogant mercenary who believed he could easily defeat the monsters. With a swift punch from the ghoul, the man was knocked unconscious. Hansel scolded the goody builder for the aggressive move, but then reassured him that it wasn't his fault. Turning to the humans, Hansel asserted his authority, and they agreed to obey him. Despite the initial clash, the injured volunteer attempted another attack on the goody builder, only to be swiftly dealt with by Hansel's speed and skill. As General Ryan arrived at the training ground, the chaos caught her attention. Confusion spread through the crowd, some attributing the events to magic. She turned to the human trainer for an explanation. He informed her about the conflicts over obeying orders and the resulting combat. The rumor of magic being used by Hansel and the monsters was circulating. Ryan approached Hansel directly, questioning his involvement in using magic. Hansel denied the accusation, and Ryan chose to believe him. Just as the tension seemed to ease, Lord Mordo entered the scene, casting doubt on Ryan's allegiance. Mordo accused Ryan of siding with the monsters over her own people, causing unrest. Innocently, Hansel offered training to Mordo, who promptly halted the suggestion. The former Ghoul Lord intervened, highlighting the problems caused, and the student's injury due to the new training methods. Mordo declared a 2-year exile for General Ryan, leaving her stunned. Her students pleaded with Mordo not to punish her, suggesting the monsters be eliminated instead. The air was tense, and apologies flowed as Ryan confessed his inability to protect his friend Hansel. Yet Hansel remained calm, his usual chill demeanor unfazed by the situation. With a casual nod, Hansel made a simple request. He asked that the promised 3-month sanctuary for the monster guests be upheld. Ryan's agreement came swiftly, accompanied by a sly smirk that hinted at some mischievous thought. And then, the atmosphere shifted abruptly as Ryan's voice boomed, shouting at her students. Furious scolding filled the air, reprimanding the young learners for their discrimination and insolence towards both each other and their feudal lord. Even Ryan herself took a step back, accepting the consequences of her own actions. Her excuse? Making room for a new seed to grow, a curious notion that hovered on the edge of her mind. Amidst the chaotic spectacle, Hansel appeared undisturbed, casually performing lunges, a picture of tranquility in the midst of turmoil. In the shadows of the night, an injured mercenary slipped away from the palace, clutching his newfound wealth and leaving a trail of drama in his wake. Ryan's determination remained unshaken, a sense of triumph hanging in the air as the burden of grimy tasks lifted. Meanwhile, a locket held the memories of a wife and daughter. The mercenary whispered to the burning image, promising reunion, unaware that a more sinister force awaited him back home. Fire engulfed the town, an eerie backdrop to a more pressing threat, zombies, numerous and relentless. On a nearby cliff, an eccentric figure revelled in the chaos, dancing with a girl named Elise. The town's demise seemed to bring him joy, a strange and unsettling presence against the backdrop of destruction. What will happen next? Find out next time by staying tuned for our future recaps. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more great recaps.